Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. I'm Cliff. I'm serial entrepreneur, author of the Entrepreneur Power Up book, and host of the Power Up book channel. This is my weekly live show that I do for my community. I host a free community on the Skool app. And if you haven't heard of that, just click on the link on the description and you can join my free community. I answer questions about entrepreneurship and just generally help people out. And so this is a great chance for me to go over some of the questions I had this week in my community and just talk about things that are on my mind, kind of like a podcast, if you will. I've had a really good week. I'm definitely on top of things today. I had someone reach out to me this week. So the more I do stuff online and the more attention I'm getting and the bigger my group grows and the more I interact with different communities and things, I'm starting to get people come out of the woodwork and send me messages, and some have business propositions and things like that. I had someone this week send me a message and we had a call and we discussed what really could have been a very lucrative business opportunity. This person basically had half of the pie, and me and my expertise and talents was the other half of the pie. And this person had the leads and the framework and everything in place. And we were set to start working on some type of project that could have been, worth, I don't know, tens of thousands, even more in income. And I thought this person was legit. And so we connected on Discord. The person gave me their Discord information. And, we kind of went back and forth to try to talk again for a couple days. And then it's just been radio silence ever since then. And this just happens a lot. I'm going to tell you this in entrepreneurship, when you are working on a business and trying to grow the business and you start talking to other people about collaborations and things like that, you're going to start to have people that will promise you cool things and get you hyped up about doing cool things together. And then for some reason, there's just no follow up, or they just disappear, or they start ghosting you. And it's really frustrating. And I get tired of it. Uh, I don't like to waste my time. I know none of you like to waste your time. And at the same time, I've had great opportunities happen through events like that where someone contacts you. So I always believe it's worth exploring things with people, but when they just ghost you or just flake out on you, it's really disappointing. I feel like the world is just a majority of people in the world, I should say, are just like this. They talk about doing things, they want to do great things, they're big talkers, they even talk to other people about doing stuff. And then when it rubber hits the road, or whatever the saying is, when it's time to actually do something, these people just disappear, and it's really frustrating. um I want people to be doers. I want my community to be people who do things. If you're in my community, or if you're just watching this and you're thinking about entrepreneurship, be a doer. Don't just be a talker. Don't be just a dreamer. And what I mean by being a doer, do something. Actually create what it is that you want to create. Take some sort of action. And most importantly, and here is the $1,000,000 advice, okay? When you are a doer, you need to actually do something. If you tell someone you're going to work on something with them, or do something with them, or do some type of business with them, absolutely follow up and do it. This is absolutely $1,000,000 advice, because if I wasn't a doer, I wouldn't have sold my first company. So you have to be a doer, and don't flake on people. Don't tell people things that you want to do or that you're going to do and then not do it. It's awful, and it's hard to trust people. And this actually leads into my first topic. And someone in the community, thanks Jenny, asked me how to choose a best business partner. And this is part of that problem, right? You want to choose a business partner to help you with your company, and you've got but yet you've got a lot of people who are flaky, who don't do anything, who don't do what they say they're going to do. They just disappear and ghost you and stuff. So how do you find the best partner, right, to do something? And there's not a real simple answer. There's not a simple checklist. You can ask people questions and they can tell you all the right things, but it's, as there's a saying, it's not what people say, it's what they do, right? And even sometimes people get into something for a while, and then after a month or two, they start to get wary of it and they get bored and they move on to something else. And this is really hard. So, how do I condense this into advice on how to find someone to work with? I can tell you my personal experience. I mean, I just told you part of my personal experience this week of someone who pitched me about something really cool and then just disappeared in the ether. But as far as finding someone that you're going to split equity with and that you're going to actually try to run a startup with, that's really tough. So my advice is you need to vet the person really well, first of all. I would be wary if they don't have a really solid LinkedIn that they're up to date on and active on. I would also find out what other people they've worked with and what other projects they've done and vet that as well. If you can talk to anyone they've worked with uh, in any capacity, that would be a big deal. So that you can know that this person could be trusted. That's one thing. So check their background, check references, things like that. The next thing is and their track record, those three things. But the next thing is also is if you're putting money into starting a company or business together, is that person willing to put money into it? That's usually a good indication they're pretty serious about. Now, a lot of us will try to work just on equity, sweat equity. So we're just putting work into something, and maybe you're the one funding it, and the partner you're trying to get has some technical skills, so you're not going to ask them to pay for things, and that's fine too. But then they have to be willing to do those things, right? So in that kind of situation, before you sign any equity over to someone, I think it's prudent to just give them a task to work on for a bit and see if they're willing to do that, and just see how that goes. And I think most people are pretty reasonable if you were just to be honest and upfront and say, "Hey, I'd like to work with you. Why don't we work on this thing together and see how this goes?" And if it goes really well, then we can start signing paperwork on equity and for the company, and then you can proceed ahead. The business partner that I have for my startup right now, I met him in graduate school, and so I knew him for over a year, and we started talking about my business idea, my company idea. So, but we built a lot of trust just being students together, and he helped pretty practically did some of my homework for me at one point. So he just built up a lot of trust and a good friendship, and that's really helped us work together in a startup. And he does pretty much everything within reason that I ask of him, and so he's putting the work into it as well. Um, he's turned out to be a good partner. So time, sometimes it takes time to build up trust and a relationship. So um, that can really help a lot as well. Another thing to make sure you're working with a good partner, uh, you want to see how they handle their social media. You want to see how they handle other things. Again, it's as much as you can observe with them. And you want to see how good they are at communication with you. That's a big thing. If someone doesn't get back to you and starts ghosting you, that's really frustrating. And that's a big red flag. If they're not even going to text you back, they're not going to respond to you on Discord, they're not going to email you back. They're not pushing the project. They're not pushing you a little bit to get things done. That's also an indication that that may not be a good business partner. Another thing you can do is when you sign over the equity relationship and an agreement. These are called safe agreements. Usually, what people do when they have startups, they do a safe agreement. And if anyone has questions on how to do a safe agreement, just let me know. But make sure that you have more of the equity if possible. That way, you've got a majority voting share. So if something does happen with that partner, then you are the board at that point, and you can dissolve their business partnership. I actually had one partner that I brought on. It was just for a small, tiny amount of equity, and he just he threw his hat in to do it, and he was really onto it. And then all of a sudden, when things got a little more demanding and complex with the company, requiring more paperwork and things like that, he just said, "I'm out. I can't do this anymore." And I'm like, "That's fine. I'll just dissolve your equity." And so that was it. So build that into your equity agreement that you have that type of say. Otherwise, it's all risk, no matter how you put it. When you start working with someone, it's going to be a risk. So you just have to be willing to take that risk with that person and decide. But you need to hedge that risk as much as possible with what I just said. Okay, let's move on to the next topic here: how to build relevant audience with a startup. So someone in my community is working on a startup and they're trying to find the relevant audience. Now, I'm not sure what their startup idea is or who their audience is, but this is just general advice here. From what I'm seeing online and what people are doing that works really well is, before you start doing any work on a project, like let's say you're building a software as a service or some type of app on the internet, what a lot of people who are successful who have done this are saying is you need to find your audience first, and you need to start building that community and building interest in what you're doing. You need to talk to these people and find out if what you are proposing to do is going to help them with what their problem is. And if you've got buy-in from a bunch of people, then your project is going to be much more successful. So you need to build the project first, get everyone kind of excited and hyped about it, get them involved and following you to some capacity. So that way, when you do start to develop, you've got the buy-in already and you've got a ton of people lined up just for a free trial or to test it. And ultimately you'll have some that'll become buyers, and that's how you get your monthly revenue up when you start opening a business. What a lot of people do, which is a mistake, is they build the product first and then they try to go find the customers. And I'm not saying that's like the most disastrous thing to do. It's what I did with my first company, because I just didn't have the knowledge back then, and I just took a big risk on building a product and thinking that people would like it, right? Um, but in this day and age, time and money is really precious. So it is good to find out if there's the need for it first. Otherwise, you spend all that time building something and then you find out, well, no one needs it, or there's a ton of competition that they're using instead and they don't like your idea. And then you can move on to something else. So you're not just putting all that time and effort into developing something. So, well, how do you find these people, right? That's the question. Well, you have to know who your audience is. You have to identify who your audience is, who your customers are, right? That's what I mean. When I say audience, I mean customers. And you need to identify who they are and what their problem is and how your product or service is going to help them with that problem. Now, a lot of people are very general with this. Well, my customer is anyone who's breathing. Well, that's really not good enough, right? Really need to narrow it down. And this can be geographical, it can be economic, it could be what they're doing for a business or a trade, whatever it is, it has to be as specific as possible. And you have to find who those people are and work on getting their attention on uh, X, Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube. And I used to give advice for blogs. I still think blogging is really important when you blog and give answers to questions that people have and build value. I still do that, and I'm getting followers every day on my blog and subscribers. So I'm not saying blog is bad advice, but what I'm hearing also from other people is that AI has become more popular and people are just asking AI the questions, right? Instead of going to the internet, to Google and asking questions for Google. I still think there's a balance of both. So at this point, you can still do both, but you really need to add value to solve this crisis and answer questions of what these people have. And you have to start creating that type of content to attract these people to you. And YouTube is a really great way of doing it, because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So creating a YouTube channel, that's really not going to be as easily replaced by AI. And so creating videos and tutorials and just things of value is a good way to build up an audience and validate what it is that you're working on. An email newsletter is really good as well. Anytime you can capture people's emails, you can start building that interest and cultivating that that email newsletter and getting people excited about your product that way. But you really just need to know who is my customer and where are they on the internet. And once you've solved that, it's just a matter of how are you going to reach out to them. For some people, if you don't have any money, you can just create your social media and start joining other social media groups that have the same followers. Maybe they're big influencers that have a lot of your market following them. Then you can just start contributing to that discussion. Spend a few minutes each day and being positive. And I don't mean selling your product. No, just contribute to the discussion, contribute value to the person who's running that influencer, that's running that social media account, and contribute value to that audience. And that will start to draw people towards your direction because you're helping them out and you're solving some problems. And so that's a good way of getting those people. Same thing on Twitter X. On X, you can create posts that give that value and then follow other influencers and connect to people that way. This takes time. It's a grind. It's something that you will be doing every day, which is why I always advise people that if you're going to start any type of business or do anything project, it needs to be something you're generally interested in and even best passionate about. So you're going to do that to build that content. Now we can get into ways to automate things. For example, you can have when you have followers, you can create posts that say, respond with this word and we'll auto DM you the information or something like that, right? And that does start to cost money. So you start to use apps like ManyChat or Zapier, things that kind of start automating the process. That's really getting into ways to get people into your funnel, right? And get people into your community a lot quicker because you're automating the process and you're not having to do all the little things on your own. So I think so basically junior varsity starting out, if you don't have a budget, absolutely be active on social media, start building your following, start asking people lots of questions, start adding value, create content for YouTube. That's the low cost way or no cost way to do it. But when we get into actual spending money, hosting a website with a blog, using AI powered triggered apps and things like that that can chat with people, interact with people, send them auto DMs, and then send them to a funnel where you can sell your product or just add them to your email or things like that. That starts to get a little more advanced and costs a little bit of money each month. So there's two ways to go on that. And I hope all of this has helped you. And I'm going to end the show early today. It's a pretty short one, but these are really good questions and it changes every week what everyone needs. And so I just love talking about this and I look forward to keeping up with what things you want to learn. And please subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed yet. I want to thank you for your time and attention today. And please join my community as well. We'll see you there. I'll be glad to answer your questions. And until then, keep powering up. Thanks again.